Well, Australia's oldest and biggest cattle producer is AACo. Has had a really strong year, notwithstanding the threat of US tariffs on Australian beef exports and also the threat from the Greens to ban live cattle exports. The company today said operating profit was $58.4 million. That's up 14%. Its revenue grew by 15% to almost $388 million. AACo's chief executive is David Harris. Ed Boyd caught up with him a little earlier today.
Oh, look, I think, unfortunately, it's part of the Australian history. We celebrated our 200 years last year, and there is no doubt there's been multiple occasions that these sorts of things have played out. You're right, though. We had probably the largest drought on record in 2018-19, and then some of the largest floods. So there is certainly the extremes certainly affecting us a little bit more in the more recent times.
Yeah, from a cattle management perspective, what's worse, a drought or a serious flood?
Oh, good question. There's a lot of other things that come into play on that one. Both of them can be as severe as the other. What's been, I suppose, good for AACo more recently is that the current weather conditions and the current floods haven't had a negative effect on us this year, which has been very pleasing.
One risk you mentioned in your full results slide deck today is the potential for the Trump administration to put in tariffs again on Aussie beef. I know there are tariffs paused right now, but how worried are you for your export sector if Trump and his administration do put tariffs back in on Aussie products?
Yeah, sure. Unfortunately, it goes in one of the buckets of things that are outside my control. And so whilst we think about it a lot, what it does mean is that we come back to, the core business for us, which is selling, wonderful beef all around the world, but on a global scale. And so whilst the North American market is a really significant one for us, we can, if that market is not as profitable for us or difficult, we just move that product around the world and find other markets where it's more suitable and the financial outcomes for us are better.
Yeah, have your global supply chains really been adapting over the past few months since the Trump administration started to put out all these announcements and press releases around tariffs and trade?
Look, it hasn't actually changed that much for us. I was in the US and Canada only a couple of weeks ago. We see really strong demand from, the North America for our product. They're starting to get into certainly a considerably shorter supply from their domestic product part of the cycle. So they had, very large liquidations over the last 2 or 3 years. They're at the bottom end of that. Livestock prices over there are very high. So their demand for our product is very strong.
The live export component sector of your business, I mean, how big is it at AACo?
Yeah, it's a very meaningful part of the business, but it's a very small part in relative terms to the branded beef side of things and our more overall live sales portion. But everything has a contribution.
Yeah, the federal Greens really lost quite a few seats at the recent election. They were obviously keen to ban live exports. Does the outlook for the live export sector seem a little bit rosier now?
Oh, look, I think that the live export sector is doing a lot of work on itself and to make sure that it's putting its best foot forward all the time. I don't necessarily think that the outlook has changed for that live export sector. It's a really important part of certainly Northern Australia and Western Australia and a part that, we still operate in today.
The Liberals and Nationals split earlier this week, and we're just hearing reports today they may potentially get back together. But does a united coalition mean better advocacy for the agriculture sector?
Look, only hindsight would be the judge on that. But I think for us, we work with all sides of government. At the end of the day, we don't have a political bias in any way, shape or form. We have to work with all governments for what's best for the industry and certainly the business as a whole.
Looking at your full year results, meat sales up strongly. Just talk about the demand you're getting for your beef and what parts of the world it's really coming from.
Yeah, sure. So obviously the results that we're talking to now are the 12 months prior. So demand was softer at the start of that period. And so, prices received were challenged, but there's really good demand building from around the whole globe, frankly. Like I mentioned before, the domestic supply in some of our biggest markets, South Korea and the North America area, is starting to get shorter. And so they're looking to bring product in from Australia. We're seeing the UK really come to the table and looking for Australian product, and Europe has always been strong. So globally, we see the demand for Australian product really strong for the next short to medium term.
David Harris, Chief Executive AACo. Thanks for coming on the show.
Not a problem. Thank you.